She looked me dead in the eye and laughed. Someone like you is easy to replace. You're nothing special. Her voice was coated in cruelty, and her friends giggled behind their wine glasses like they were in on the joke. I felt my jaw tighten, but I didn't let it show. Instead, I smiled. Slow. Deliberate. Thanks for the reminder, I said softly. I needed that. Then I stood up, tucked the napkin under my untouched plate, and walked away. I didn't ask for the ring back. I didn't yell. I didn't beg. I just left. My name is Jenna Morales, and from wherever you're watching this, stay with me. Have you ever watched someone light the match that burned their own world down, and then blame you for not saving it? Let me tell you what happened the night everything cracked open. We were supposed to be celebrating a little engagement dinner with her friends. My fiancée, Lexi, had insisted. She'd planned it all: a downtown rooftop bar, fairy lights, overpriced charcuterie, people I barely knew but she wanted to impress. That night was off from the start. Lexi barely looked at me. She was all charm and champagne with them, and cold glances and clipped tones with me. I told myself she was stressed. I told myself she was just showing off. But the truth? She'd already replaced me in her head. Her old college friend Mason, tall, smug, Rolex on his wrist, leaned in too close when Lexi laughed. Her hand lingered on his forearm a second too long. I noticed. So did everyone else. Then came the jab. Mason asked how we met, and I told the story. Sweet, simple, how she'd spilled coffee on me in a bookstore. But when I finished, Lexi looked bored. She rolled her eyes and said, "He makes it sound like a fairy tale." Trust me, it wasn't. That stung, but I swallowed it. Then Mason said, "Still, she's lucky. You seem like a loyal guy." Lexi smirked. Loyal? Maybe. But let's be honest, someone like him is easy to replace. He's nothing special. They was out loud, like I wasn't even sitting there. And they laughed. They actually laughed. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just stayed at her. Then I smiled. Thanks for the reminder. And I left. I don't think she expected that. Lexi always thought she had the upper hand, that I needed her more than she needed me, that without her, I'd crumble. But what she didn't know was that I'd already begun to rise. That night, I didn't go home. I drove to my brother's place and sat on the balcony staring at the city lights. And I made a decision. I was done being her background character. I wasn't going to fight for someone who mocked me in public and belittled me in private. I wasn't going to stay where I wasn't respected. But I also wasn't going to just walk away quietly. I was going to make sure that when she looked back on this, when she realized what she lost, it would sting. And not because I became bitter, but because I became undeniable. You see, I didn't need revenge. I just needed to become someone so unforgettable that her pride would choke on my absence. So I started planning not to get her back, but to show her exactly who she gave up on. And when she finally saw who had taken my place, let's just say, the silence on her face was louder than her laughter had ever been. The silence after I left that rooftop was deafening, not just for her, but for me too. You think walking away will feel like freedom, but at first, it just feels hollow. Until it doesn't. That night, I turned off my phone. No texts, no calls, no lost words. I erased every trace of her from my apartment, every framed photo, every coffee mug, every scent that reminded me of her. I boxed it all up and left it on her doorstep with a sticky note that read, "You said I was easy to replace. Let's see how easy." My brother, Matteo, watched me with a quiet kind of awe. He never liked Lexi, but he never said it out loud either. When I told him what happened, he just nodded and said, "Good. Now let's rebuild." Matteo runs a private design firm in LA, interiors, architecture, full-scale transformation projects for high-end clients. I was always the quieter one, the tech guy in a sea of creatives. But I'd helped him behind the scenes with automation, streamlining proposals, fixing digital messes. For free. 4 years. But the thing is, one of Matteo's clients had just dropped out of a luxury real estate tech partnership. And there was a space. You've got the skills, he told me. Why not stop helping everyone else build their dreams and start building your own? So I did. I took my severance from the corporate tech job I hated and poured it into something I'd been sketching in silence for months, a software suite that lets high-end designers manage visual mock-ups, budgets, and approvals all in one place. I called it Render. Simple, sleek, sharp. I slept 4 hours a night, ate like a raccoon, coded until sunrise. Every time I felt like texting Lexi, I worked harder. And here's the part that stings, right? Lexi didn't even notice I was gone. Not for 2 weeks. Not a word. No calls. No apologies. Nothing. Until the launch. Matteo had pulled a few strings and got me a demo meeting with a big client, Cara Stanton, a luxury designer whose Instagram had over 1 million followers. I showed her a prototype of Render, and she stared at the screen like it was gold. She said, "Where have you been hiding?" A week later, she signed a $45,000 pilot contract. The day that went public, Lexi finally reached out. I still remember the text. "Hey stranger. Crazy seeing you pop up on Cara's story. Looks like you're doing well. Miss you sometimes." I didn't reply. Instead, I posted a photo. Not of me. Of her. Cara. Us. Clinking champagne glasses after signing the deal. Caption. "To new beginnings, with the right people." Lexi saw it. I know because 30 minutes later, she unfollowed me. But I wasn't done. The thing about Lexi was, her pride wasn't built on love. It was built on status, on looking like she always upgraded, always traded up. So I wasn't going to hurt her with words. I was going to erase her from the version of my story that mattered, the version everyone would remember. And in her place, I was going to crown someone who actually believed in me before the world caught up. Because sometimes, the best revenge is becoming someone she can't even approach anymore. And the silence she hears now? That's not absence. That's power. The night Render went live to the public, I stood in a black tailored suit under the glowing chandeliers of the Stanton Hotel ballroom, a place I'd never even been allowed into back when I was nothing special. Now I was the keynote speaker. Cara introduced me like I was royalty, the quiet genius behind the software that's about to redefine design. Applause. Camera flashes. Lexi used to say I wasn't interesting enough for rooms like this. Funny how fast a room forgets someone who never belonged. My name was etched on the program. My voice echoed through the speakers. And somewhere in that room, back near the bar, almost hidden in the shadows, I saw her. Lexi. Hair sleek. Dressed too expensive for someone who never paid her own credit card bills. Arms folded. Eyes tight. She didn't smile. She didn't wave. She just stood there, drinking her regret in silence. I didn't acknowledge her. But Cara did. She leaned in and whispered, "Who's that?" "The one who keeps glaring at you like she lost the lottery." I smiled. Just someone who thought I was easy to replace. Cara laughed, soft and rich. Shame. People like that always realize too late. After the speech, I was swarmed with congratulations, developers, investors, designers, even influencers I'd seen on TV. Somewhere between the third champagne and the fifth handshake, Cara pulled me aside again. "I know this might sound impulsive," she said, "but I want to help scale Render. I've got angel investors who trust my judgment. If you're ready for real expansion, I'm in." I blinked. "How much are we talking?" $250,000 to start. I didn't say yes right away, because Lexi was still watching, and part of me wanted her to hear every number. But the better part of me, the one that had grown in silence and sweat, whispered back, "She doesn't matter anymore." So I turned to Cara and said, "Let's do it." The contract was signed that weekend, and by Monday, I had a team of 5 coders working under me. My inbox flooded. My LinkedIn exploded. My name was everywhere. Lexi started texting again. Can we talk? I miss you. I didn't mean it that way. You know I was just joking that night. I didn't respond. But I saw the one that finally broke her ego. I see her in your pictures. I get it now. No anger. No sarcasm. Just defeat. I didn't reply, because I knew what she meant. Kara wasn't just a business partner. She was warm, fierce, the kind of woman who made you believe in your own ideas, not mock them over dinner. She listened when I spoke. She challenged me when I doubted myself. She never once made me feel replaceable. And every time Lexis saw her, online, on stage, in the press, she saw the woman who had taken her place. But what she didn't know was, Kara didn't replace her. She revealed the man I'd been all along. The man Lexi couldn't recognize because she was too busy looking for someone shinier, flashier, easier to control. Lexi didn't lose me to another woman. She lost me to the version of myself that no longer needed her. And the man I was becoming, he didn't have space for half-hearted apologies or shallow love. He was building something bigger, something permanent. And the louder his name got, the quieter hers became. A month after the launch, Render was featured in Architect Digest, a 2-page spread. My photo, my words, my journey, minus Lexi, of course. Her name was erased so cleanly from my timeline it was like she'd never existed, except she had. And now, she was everywhere I turned, but only in the rearview mirror. She started deeming my friends. Subtle at first. Hey, I saw you tagged in his post. Is he okay? Then more direct. Do you think he'd ever want to catch up? Matteo sent me screenshots with laughing emojis. Bro, she's spiraling. But I didn't laugh. Because spiraling means she finally saw it. That when someone tells you you're nothing, you might just become everything without them. Still, I didn't block her. That would have been too easy. No, I let her watch. And what she did. I posted one photo that broke her. Kara and I were in San Francisco attending a design gala at the Fairmont. I wore a midnight blue tux. She wore silver. We didn't pose like a couple. We didn't need to. The chemistry leaked through the frame. The caption read, "When vision meets belief." Lexi commented, "I always believed in you. Just wish you saw it." The audacity. The woman who laughed in my face, who told a room full of people I was forgettable, was now trying to rewrite history. I didn't delete the comment, but Kara noticed it. Later that night, over wine, she asked gently, "Is she always like that?" "No," I said. "She used to be worse." Kara nodded slowly. "You don't have to explain. I've seen this story before. People don't regret losing you. They regret losing access to you." That line hit me like a freight train. Because it was true. Lexi didn't miss me. She missed proximity to the version of me that made her look good. But I wasn't her reflection anymore. I was my own light now. Weeks passed. Kara and I grew closer, not just in business, but in quiet, steady moments. She'd fall asleep with her laptop open beside mine, both of us coding in sync. We'd fight over fonts like kids and celebrate every download like it was a Grammy. She saw me, really saw me. And maybe that's why, when Lexi finally showed up in person, I didn't flinch. It was a Thursday. I was leaving the Render office in downtown LA, leather briefcase in hand, stress etched into my forehead after a long investor call. And there she was, perched on the hood of my car like a scene out of a sad rom-com. Hair curled, makeup perfect, lipstick matching her desperation. "Hi," she said softly. I didn't reply. She stood up, brushing invisible lint from her skirt. "I've been meaning to talk to you. I think I messed up." "No, I know I messed up." I didn't move. She stepped closer. "I was scared. You were stable, kind, and I thought I needed fireworks. You know? Chaos. But I was wrong. You were the piece I didn't know how to accept." I looked at her for a long moment. And finally, I said, You called me replaceable. Tears welled up in her eyes. I didn't mean it. But you did, I said. And the thing is, you were right. She blinked, confused. I leaned in slightly and whispered, because I replaced you with everything you told me I'd never be. I walked past her, got in my car, shut the door, and in the rearview mirror, I saw her standing there, mouth open, eyes stunned, realizing that I hadn't just moved on. I had evolved, and she wasn't even part of the equation anymore. The moment I pulled away from that curb, leaving Lexi frozen beside my car like a ghost from another life, something shifted. It wasn't triumph. It wasn't anger. It was peace. The kind of peace that only comes when you finally stop proving yourself to someone who never truly saw you. Kara called as I hit the freeway. Her voice came through the speakers, soft, steady. You okay? I smiled. I think I finally am. Because that encounter with Lexi, it wasn't closure. It was confirmation that the version of me who tolerated breadcrumbs was gone. I pulled into my apartment garage and rode the elevator up to the penthouse suite, the same building Lexi once said was too ambitious when I first looked at it. You're not that kind of guy, she had said. Apparently, I was. I stepped into my place, floor-to-ceiling windows, cool marble floors, minimalist art. But it wasn't the luxury that mattered. It was that every inch of it had been owned without her. Kara was already there, curled up on my couch, laptop open, running a marketing A/B test for our next feature launch. She looked up. You look like you just walked through fire and didn't get burned. I laughed. That's exactly what it feels like. She stood and crossed the room in 3 strides, wrapping her arms around me. Her voice was a whisper against my chest. She saw the finished product, but she'll never know the cost of the process. Exactly. Because Lexi hadn't just lost me. She'd lost the right to say she ever contributed to what I became. The next few weeks were a blur. Render hit 100,000 users. Kara and I were interviewed by Tech Weekly. I got invited to speak on a panel next to CEOs I used to idolize. And through it all, Lexi kept reaching. An email, a voicemail, a letter dropped off at my office, written in cursive on perfume-scented stationery, like some tragic apology from a movie. She wrote, I never thought I'd be on the outside looking in. I just want to talk. Just once. Please. I didn't reply, but I did do one thing. I donated $10,000 to the college scholarship fund Lexi always pretended to support but never actually contributed to. I used her name on the donation. Anonymous, but labeled. In honor of the lessons we learned too late. Kara saw the receipt and raised an eyebrow. Spite donation. I grinned. Poetic donation. We laughed. Then we got back to work. Because that's the thing about healing. It's not loud. It doesn't scream in someone's face. It builds quietly, brick by brick, until one day you wake up and the walls that once caged you have become a fortress. Lexi, she became background noise, a fading echo in a room I no longer stood in. And as for Kara and me, we weren't rushing labels. But the night she fell asleep on my shoulder at the Render holiday party, her fingers loosely wrapped around mine, I knew something had changed. She wasn't a rebound. She was the mirror I never had before. One that didn't distort me. One that showed me my own power, clearly, fully, unapologetically. And in that reflection, there was no room left for regret. Only clarity. Only growth. Only everything Lexi had laughed at, now standing tall and untouchable. The first time Lexi saw Kara and me in person, together, truly together, was at the Render X Stanton Charity Gala. We were co-hosting the event. A sleek black tie night held at the Avalon. Press everywhere. Soft jazz in the background. It wasn't just about the app anymore. It was about presence. It was about impact. And this time, I wasn't attending as someone's plus one. I was the headliner. I wore a deep charcoal tux. Kara wore crimson silk that turned every head in the room. She didn't cling to my arm like Lexi used to. She stood beside me, her own force, Her own gravity. The flashbulbs went wild. When I spotted Lexi by the open bar, my stomach didn't drop. It didn't tighten. It did nothing. She looked like she was trying too hard, overdone makeup, laughed too loud, dressed just a shade too desperate. She wasn't a guest. She wasn't on the invite list. She came as someone's date, I later found out. Someone vaguely important. Someone she thought would grant her access back into the circle she was no longer part of. And when Kara was pulled away to take photos with donors, Lexi made her move. Jenna. Her voice was sugary, fake confidence dripping off it. Long time. I sipped my drink. Lexi. You look good. Really good. I do, I said plainly. She shifted, eyes flicking over the crowd behind me. Renda's everywhere. You're everywhere. It's wild. Is it? I said. It's been a long time coming. There was a flicker of something in her face. A glitch. She tried to play it cool. I just wanted to say, I'm happy for you. Truly. You deserve all of this. And then, quietly, and maybe I didn't see that soon enough, I stayed at her, not out of anger, but out of clarity, because there was nothing left I needed from her. Not her apology, not her approval, not even her closure. So I gave her something better. I smiled. You know, Lex, I used to lie awake wondering why I wasn't enough for you. She looked down. But now I realize, I continued, it was never about me lacking something. It was about you being too small to hold someone like me. Her eyes filled, just for a second, and I said the line that finally shattered her. The best thing you ever did was underestimate me. I turned before she could reply. Kara had returned, her hand finding mine without hesitation. What was that about? She asked. I looked back once, so Lex is still standing there, blinking through her humiliation, and then I turned away for the last time. Just a reminder, I said softly, of who I used to be. The rest of the night felt like a coronation. Not because I'd made it, but because I'd left behind everything that once made me question my worth. Renda hit its 1-year milestone that week. We expanded to Europe. Kara and I were offered a deal to license our platform into education institutions nationwide. But none of that was the real victory. The real victory was internal. I was no longer proving anything. Not to Lexi. Not to Kara. Not even to myself. I'd simply become what I was always meant to be, once I got out of the wrong story. And Lexi, she was now just a footnote in a chapter one had outgrown. The official Renda acquisition offer came on a Tuesday morning. $18 million. Full buyout from a Fortune 500 tech giant that wanted to integrate Renda into their real estate AI platform. They offered Kara and me a consulting deal, a board seat, and the freedom to start again if we chose to. I stared at the screen in silence for a full minute. Not because I didn't believe it, but because part of me still remembered the guy who sat alone in his brother's guest room coding through the night, with nothing but heartbreak in his chest and a quiet fire in his bones. That guy had nothing to his name. Now he had built something so powerful. The same world that once overlooked him was now offering him millions to step in and lead. I called Kara. She didn't scream or cry. She just said, let's make sure the terms are clean and that we keep our equity in the new build. God, I love that woman. We met at a quiet rooftop cafe that afternoon. Signed the paperwork over espresso and soft jazz. No theatrics. Just two people who believed in the same vision and knew their worth. When we clicked the final accept button on the contract, Kara reached across the table. To Renda, she whispered. To us, I replied. And then, almost like the universe was still trying to test me, my phone buzzed. Lexi. I hadn't heard from her in weeks, but the message popped up like an unwanted memory. I saw the news. I don't even know what to say. I'm proud of you. Truly. I just wish things had gone differently. It was. The last echo. I showed it to Kara. She raised one brow and said simply, You want to respond? I shook my head. No. She's not my past anymore. She's a D2 I survived. Kara smiled. Then let's delete it. I hit delete without hesitation. That evening, we threw a private celebration at my place. Just the render team, a few close friends, some champagne, and rooftop city views that made everything feel surreal. Matteo pulled me aside at one point and said, "You know, I never thought I'd see you like this. Calm, confident, free." I nodded. Neither did I. And then he added, "Lexi called me last week." That made me pause. "What?" "She was fishing," he said, "asking about you, wondering if you were happy. She tried to sound casual, but she's not over it." I shrugged. "She doesn't have to be." He clinked his glass to mine. "Damn right." The night faded into laughter and toasts and soft music, but somewhere in the middle of it all, I stepped out onto the balcony alone. I looked out at the city, a city that once swallowed me whole, and realized something. Revenge had never been the goal. The goal was to remember who I was before someone else decided I was less. And now I didn't just remember. I had rewritten everything. From heartbreak to high-rise, from silence to headlines, from replaceable to untouchable. And in the morning, when the press released the news, I knew she'd see it. The numbers, the praise, the photo of Kara and me side by side, partners in every way. But most of all, she'd see the one thing she could never reclaim. The version of me that no longer needed her recognition to feel whole. 3 months later, I got married. Not to prove a point, not to post a picture, but because I'd finally found someone who didn't need to be convinced of my worth. Kara and I didn't do a grand wedding. No over-the-top spectacle. Just a quiet coastal ceremony in Big Sur, cliffside, ocean wind in our hair, sun dipping low behind us. 30 guests. No drama. No ghosts from the past. Except one. Lexi sent a handwritten letter. I never opened it. I burned it in the fire pit the night before our vows. No rage. No malice. Just the final ember of a story that no longer belonged to me. Because here's what no one tells you about revenge. If you're still chasing it, you're still chained to the person who broke you. But if you outgrow them so thoroughly, so undeniably, that they can't even reach the level you're standing on, that's not revenge. That's freedom. We stood barefoot in the sand when we said our vows. Kara looked at me like I wasn't just her future, I was her home. And when she slid that ring onto my finger, I didn't think about Lexi. Not once. I thought about the nights I wanted to disappear. The mornings I fought through silence. The people who told me to settle. The voice in my own head that used to whisper, "You're not enough." They were all gone now. All replaced by one quiet truth. I never needed to be more for someone else. I only ever needed to become everything for myself. Kara and I launched a foundation the following year, tech mentorship for underserved teens. We called it Origin. Because sometimes, the place where you were discarded is the same ground you rise from. Lexi? She works in PR now. Small firm. Still floats around events trying to stay relevant. I hear she's dating a real estate guy who talks too much and listens too little. Fitting. She still watches my stories. Still hovers at the edges of my digital world like a ghost clinging to a door that's been locked for years. But I don't hate her. I don't pity her, either. She was the catalyst. The match. But I was the flame. And in the end, she gave me the greatest gift she never meant to give. The hunger to become undeniable. Now I live in a house filled with light, beside a woman who never flinches when I dream too loud. I wake up every day doing what I love, surrounded by people who saw me long before the spotlight ever hit. I don't chase validation anymore. I don't chase anything. Because the man I am now doesn't run. He walks. He builds. He loves, fully and without apology. And the boy Lexi laughed at years ago, he's gone. In his place is a man she'll never touch again. Not because he won't let her, but because she'll never be able to reach him.